Hi everyone. I promised you guys I'd do a video of the trees. You guys are not from Eastern North America. You know, these maple trees, these ones are all yellow. And the sky is overcast, unfortunately, because it's going to rain tomorrow. And I wanted to come out and do this because it's getting like a ton of rain tomorrow and most of the leaves will probably fall off. So I'm here. I'm going to show you. These ones are all yellow, but they'll get more red. And I wanted to let you guys know that I'm going to do my class next Friday instead of this one because I've been super busy trying to get wood in and things repaired before winter comes, and we've had some warm weather to get all that done, and I just needed to take the time to do that. But anyhow, I just wanted to take you guys for a walk and show you. I did some nice, got a big huge mushroom. I'm going to make some mushroom soup. And I wanted to talk about really the date of the founding of the United States. Really important because I just discovered that a lot of the planets that were in Taurus in the founding date of 1776, July 4th, and I've noticed that a lot of things are aligning exactly the same in 2030. And I'm like, wow, a lot of planets are lining up in Taurus exactly the same as then. So why that is so important? Because that's when they're telling us the Great Reset is, right? So they basically tell you exactly what you need to know. Now, if you want to see the Great Reset as terrifying time, that's your choice. Or you can see it as a great opportunity to become a free soul. And I'm going to drop the link of Dan Winter, his last video. Oh, wow. You guys just see that? I think a hawk just flew by. And he did a video with Jay Wader, I think his name is Wider, I think. And they both were working at Gaia TV. And they're, you know, understanding the esoteric and the alchemy of the soul. And their video is explaining exactly what happens to the soul at this time of the reset. And really what it is retaining memory through death, right? So the type of death that we're going to experience, I don't know. I don't know when. I don't know what exactly the death is going to be. I'm assuming it's going to be some type of radiation from the sun and maybe transforming the body, but at the same time illuminating the mind and allowing the mind to retain memory, right? So they have a great video explaining it all. So I wanted to let you guys know about that and go check it out. It just came out a couple of days ago. And they're talking about, you know, the electrical body and how it works and what this is really all about. They're also talking about the Philosopher's Stone. He's talking about that and how that's the stone at Mecca. And it's really a capacitor. And that's really what we're talking about here. It's all to do with electricity. And your body is an electrical, you know, vessel. So you've got to come out and ground, get yourself outside, and to tap into these energies and to bring more energy into yourself. And this is really important. If you're always on the computer and you're not spending time outside, it's like your electrical field gets weakened by being on the computer. I can feel it when I'm on the computer for long hours. I start to, I don't know, I get this kind of weird lightheadedness comes, and I'm like, oh, too much time on the computer. So, you know, these are important things. And then also, you know, talking about the alignment, the cross of Henday, you know, the whole alignment is always to the solstices. And I started doing a lot of research on ancient religious rites and stuff happening on the solstices. And I wanted to check it out in the sky, really what the Milky Way is doing on the solstices, and you know how the Milky Way is going from Taurus, Silver Gate, to the Golden Gate. Okay, and that whole path between the Silver Gate and the Golden Gate is the Milky Way path. And to me, that's the rainbow. That's the rainbow that's on the Apostle of Washington painting with George Washington sitting on it in the Capitol building. And I think they're telling us what the rainbow looks like. It's not just the Milky Way, it's the ecliptic below the Milky Way. And these align like a rainbow on the solstices. Okay, and that I find mind-blowing. And I'm kind of like, okay, you know, all these ancient sites like Stonehenge, they all align to the solstices, right? And there's another stone tower in the United States, and I'll do a video on that, and that's aligning also to the solstices. So that's amazing. Okay, and we need to be looking at all the different dates on the solstices, and I have done that, and I'll show you guys which ones are more relevant. But 2024, I think it is 2025, very relevant. But I'm starting to kind of understand how this all ties into religion. Okay? It's like the religion is tied to the sky. Okay? And they're just, you know, they kind of camouflaged it because they don't want you to decode it, really, I guess, or they just want you to get on this game and try to decode it. So your mind expands and you become more alchemized by understanding how everything is connected. Okay? Everything's connected. Religion's connected to science. Science is connected to the sky. The sky is connected to the religion. You know, it's like, it's once you understand that everything is united, you don't have this us and them kind of, I don't know, like judgment of thinking that you've been duped. And it's like, it's all there right in front of you to see. It's just a big game to try to understand the history and what they were telling us. So even in the Sumerian religions, you know, their poetry and stuff is telling us that they were worshiping the sun and the cross. The cross represents the sun. Right? So it's interesting, the alchemic symbols, they use the cross to represent earth, but it's really was, the cross was the sun. So that's why the Son of God was put on a cross in the Jesus story. It's because of where the sun crosses the Milky Way. I'm convinced that's what it is, because that's where the Silver Gate and the Golden Gate cross the Milky Way. Those are, the solstices. So it's like, there you go. It's all there right in front of us for us to see. So I'll show you the visual when I get back in house so you can actually see it. But I just wanted to kind of show you the leaves and the colors, because I had promised you, and mostly, oh, there goes a deer. Oh my God. Oh, there they go. I don't know if you can see them running. Ah, there they go. I scared them. They hide out in here because I told you my neighbors shoot at them. So, and I can come in here pretty close to them now, and they don't run away, but I have my dog with me. So they decided, my big scary dog, it scared them. What are you doing? You're chasing them, eh? So, yeah, so, it's just mind-blowing, because you guys, if you've been following my channel, you know that I'm always like trying to figure out the religious part to the sky. And I understand like the spring rites of Bacchus are really important. And we also have, close to the winter solstice, we have Sigillaria Day, and Sigillaria Day is really important, and that's the winter solstice. So it's always kind of like, well, what is it? The summer or the winter? The summer or the winter? But I have my theories, and I'll show it to you on Stellarium, what I believe is what they represent, like what spring represents. It's like rebirth, and of course the winter solstice, you could say it's the dying sun, and then it dies for 3 days and then it resurrects, so you can say that is also a rebirth. So it's just kind of like playing around with it, but I want to show you visually on Stellarium so you can get and you guys can kind of give me the feedback, what you think, like with the times and what the sky looks like, how the rainbows match up and stuff. But yeah, so there's the sugar shack, and you got to see the deer slightly. You didn't get to see them up close, but you did get to see them. And I come out here when the sun's going down because I always try to get the sunset and sunrise energy. And this is my little fire pit that I'm making for the winter solstice. I always come down here and burn on the winter solstice and celebrate the sun going into longer days, right? So it's like the solstices are interesting because winter, the sun is at its shortest, so it's dark, and then it's going into a longer day, and then in the summer solstice it's super light out in the evening, but then it's going into shorter days. So it's like what means what, right? Which one means the rebirth, and that's the key, I think. That's the kind of the trying to figure that out. So I was able to pick a mushroom. I don't know if I think the other one's gone that was up here, but they're huge, the big round mushrooms, and they're fun because you can fry them up in the pan, or you can make mushroom soup with them. Basically it's free food, and I'm always grateful when I get a mushroom. I only usually get like one a year, one big one a year. But here's my little walk, guys. I know it's kind of boring. Somebody said to me, commented the last time I did this, they said, oh, it's really boring. And I'm like, okay, you're supposed to be enjoying nature. You don't find it boring. But you never know what's going to happen. I saw the hawk, saw some deer. It's always exciting. But yeah. So, lots of things crazy going on, right? I don't know if you guys felt this, but it's been nuts. Like, I've had, not personally, but people around me, so much is going on with them. I had a phone call where my mother-in-law, who's got severe dementia, her house burnt down. She got, her and her son, my brother-in-law, who happens to just found out that he's not doing well and most likely not going to make it through cancer, but it's related to alcohol and maybe the jibbity jab on top of that. So it's like, all this crazy news. So I get a phone call, their house is burning down. Just lots of huge changes in people I know breaking up in relationships, and I was listening to a tropical astrologer talking about, it's because Uranus is in Taurus, but technically it's not there yet. But what is there is Mars. Okay, Mars is in Silver Gate, so that's really Mars is with Venus, who rules Taurus, the Silver Gate, right? Venus and Earth. So that's why we got these hurricanes, and it's because war is with love, right? It's the whole battle between love and war. And you could say war with the planet because of its ruling Earth. Okay, so this is why we've had all these kind of crazy things happening with the weather. I'm convinced it's to do with Mars in the Silver Gate. And the founding of the United States, Mars was in the Silver Gate. And there was a lot of turmoil going on at that time, right, between the Patriots and the people that were supporting the British Empire. And, you know, this is like the continual story here of how it's all lining up. So it is it's really lining up in 2030 to what was happening with the founding. But Uranus is going to be in Taurus in 2024. So that's a lot of Earth changes as well. And Mars gets back into its position, its return position, about every 1.5 to 2 years. So it's going to be back there in 2024. So you can start to see, like, okay, every 2 years, it's going to get a little wild. We're going to be going in waves. So that's important to kind of prepare for and understand. But I think it's going to be even crazier in 2024 because of Uranus being there as well. And when it conjuncts Mars in Taurus, oh my God, it's going to be really crazy. So that is something to understand. And, you know, we've experienced it just recently, these hurricanes. So we know that's what it means, right? So you have to always kind of look when things happen and then remember what was going on, so you can prepare yourself for the next time, kind of have a heads up about it. And yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. So thanks for going for a walk with me, and I'll do a little bit of showing you stellarium and the dates and how the Milky Way, show you the Milky Way so you can get a visual of it. And I promise next Friday, not this one coming up, but next Friday, next week, I'll get another video out and just prep you guys on the course on the Friday evening on the Zoom. And it's all about the moon. So the moon cycles, and also I'll teach you how to use the moon for abstinence, for your peak in your sexual life, to abstinence from that on your moon days. Okay, and I'll show you how to calculate those. So that helps with your seed, your oil, so that you don't burn your seed. Okay, so you basically keep yourself sacred and keep your energy through basically for Kundalini. You're keeping your seed and your oil. You're not burning it up. So that's good to know the cycles, right? This is why you want to know the cycles, so you can use it to your advantage, not just random knowledge, right? So anyhow, I'll do the next part of this video with the stellarium, and signing out, guys. Take care.
Okay, so this is what I wanted to show you, how the Milky Way crosses the ecliptic, and you can see it crossing here on the Silver Gate, which is between the horns of Taurus. This is on the winter solstice. I've made the white dome, that's the Milky Way, and you can see how the ecliptic is below it. So it's kind of making a mirrored image of the dome. I see the Milky Way as like a dome. And this is at sunset, and you can see the sun on the winter solstice is in the Golden Gate. And then on the east, we have the Silver Gate. So we always have the Silver Gate and the Golden Gate at the helical rising on the east, and at the west on the descendant on the solstices. Now, to get the whole Milky Way so you could actually see it, I had to kind of bend the ground here so you could actually get the whole thing on the screen. So then you can see the constellations that are the Milky Way. And this is on the winter solstice again, right at sunset, as the sun is in the west. And you can see right at the top of the sky is the Northern Cross, which would be the cross of Christ. And this is Cygnus, right? It's known as the swan, but it's the swan wings are long there, but you can cut the wings down a little bit and it becomes the Northern Cross. So the dome only appears on sunrise on the summer solstice and sunset on the winter solstice. And that's where you get this kind of rainbow. And this is on the summer solstice at sunrise. And you can see Jupiter is conjunct the sun. This is in 2025. Jupiter is the god of this realm, and they're both in the Silver Gate, right, on a summer solstice. And then you can see I circled the Golden Gate to the west. And you also have Cygnus, the Northern Cross, up in the sky. Here's an example of the Milky Way being the white rainbow. This is at the fall equinox. And then the ecliptic, where the planets go, is not, underneath the Milky Way. I just wanted to show you an example because it's not like this all through the year, right? That the dome of the Milky Way is right above the ecliptic where the planets are passing. So this is what it's like on the fall and would be the spring equinox as well. So it kind of creates like the letter M or a double rainbow. Now, if you put the azimuthal grid, you really get the dome, right? You can actually see the dome. It's like a net around us. And this is at the winter solstice at noon. So not in the evening. The sun is quite low. You can see the sun is quite low at the sky, in the sky. It's right at the south. But if you circle it, you can see there's a cross. So the sun is being represented as a cross. And this is what I was explaining, that it's like when it's passing these gates, you can use the grid to create the cross. Like it's right on the south northern grid point of the azimuthal grid, crossing the ecliptic. Yeah, so this looks to me like the Celtic cross. So I think this is how some of the symbols are actually, being created, is actually visually the sky, and when they were understanding how these grid systems work. So you can see in Sumerian texts, they call the sun, they represent the sun as a cross. Okay, so I'll show you the text for that because I do have a clip of that, but I just want to go through more of the screenshots here. This is the summer solstice when the sun is really high in the sky, but it only gets on that cross point at 1 o'clock. In the winter solstice, it's at high noon, but the summer solstice, it's at 1 o'clock. And this is, to me, when Jesus is at its highest point, if you want to see the sun as being a symbolism of Jesus, right? He's at the top of the dome. He's almost in the portal, right, of the azimuthal grid. And you can see this with George Washington in the Capitol building and the Apostles of Washington painting. He's on the rainbow and like going through the portal. And that's where I've got this kind of insight from, is looking at these paintings. And you can see the sun is in the Silver Gate. And then you have the whole duat path there with Orion and Sirius. So you can see it's very symbolic. So I'm really starting to see that the summer solstice is probably extremely relevant in how to decode, the date. Everything's aligned to these numbers, and I think it all has to do with the symbolism in the sky. High noon on the spring equinox in March, the sun is at the tail of the whale. That's exactly, the azimuthal grid line. And this is the circlet of Pisces. And, I've explained before, there's these guided stars that go up to Cassiopeia, and it comes right to this part of the ecliptic. So, this is important too, because it's aligned to the spring equinox. And of course, the fall equinox in September, the sun is on Zabijava, the ascension star. So that also, aligns to the azimuthal grid. So you can start to see why these parts of the ecliptic are important, and the symbolism to these stars and why these stars are, have relevance. This is the star that Einstein measured the speed of light from. So it has, a huge importance, but it's in September, which is to me is like the fall. It's like the harvest is happening, right? That's when you start to pick your garden and you start to grab your fruit, and so it's like the harvest is happening, and it's like that's the ascension star. So it's like you're going to ascend. But that's what I'm trying to always figure out is like what is the most important place in the sky, and I do think it has to do with the Milky Way. As you can see here, the Milky Way is not up in the sky. Okay, it's down below um, the horizon. So the Milky Way has to be in the sky. The rainbow has to be up high in the sky. This is from the archive of the Phoenician origin of Britain, Scot, and Anglo-Saxon. Now, they're talking about here from a Sumerian text that the Aryan hymns, which are ancestral Sumero-Phoenician Britons offered up in adoration to the god of the sun at their cross monuments. So the cross monuments, is like they're talking about the stone circles and everything, but I think it's all to do with the ecliptic and the Milky Way, and presumably also at their solar stone circles in early pagan Britain. Okay, let us hear what the Orthodox Sumerian hymns to the Father God of the Sun sing over thousands of years before the birth of Abraham. As sun god is in the horizon of heaven, thou dawnest. The pure bolts of heaven thou openest. The door of heaven thou opens. Thou liftest up thy head to the world. Thou coverest the earth with the bright firmament of heaven. Thou settest thy ear to the prayers of mankind. Thou plantest the foot of mankind. O sun god, judge the world art thou, Lord of the living creation, the pity one who directed the world. On this day purify and illumine the King, the Son of God. Let all that is wrath and evil within his body be removed. Let this cup of the Zogans cleanse him. Like a cup of clarified oil, make him bright. Yeah, so even at the top of this text, it says, nor the sun itself, of which the cross was the symbol, were the objects of worship among the early Aryans, so-called sun and fire worshippers. So they're saying the cross represented the sun. Like the copper of a polished tablet, make him bright, undo his illness, direct the law of the multitudes of mankind. Thou art eternal, righteousness in heaven, justice in heaven, a bond on earth art thou. Thou knowest right, thou knowest wickedness, righteousness has lifted up its foot, wickedness has been cut by thee as with a knife. O sun god, who knowest all things, thine own counselor art thou. Thy hands bring back to thee the spirits of all men. Wickedness and evil dealing thou destroyest. Just the righteousness thou bringest to pass. May all men be with thee. It will thus be seen that these pious ancestral early Aryan Sumerians, under the bright beams of the sun, caught those still brighter beams of the sun of righteousness, and that the same sun worship is reflected in the Eddas of the northern Goth. That's like Norse mythology. I saw the sun, the shining day star, drop down to his home in the west. The hell gates heard I the other way, thudding open heavily. I saw the sun set drooping to hell's stoves. Much was I then healed out of home. More glorious he looked the many paths than ever he had looked before. I saw the sun, and so thought I was seeing the glory of God. To him I bow low for the hindmost time. From my old home, I in this earth. So I don't know. It's like the sun. They're talking about the sunset, and I know when the sun sets and it goes, below the horizon, it's going into Hades. Okay, so they say Jesus, when he resurrected, went into Hades. So, that would be the winter solstice when the Milky Way is in the rainbow. So who knows? Like, I don't know. I'm sitting on the fence, but I think more towards the summer solstice because of the glory of the sun, the warmth of the sun. This is Jesus's tomb in Jerusalem, and this is called a sepulcher. And I'm fascinated that there's a dome with a portal, and the sun's shining through, right? It's always this dome portal with the sun shining through. And if you start really studying paintings, you'll start to see this quite repetitive in a lot of them. And you can also see it here in the esoteric Freemason archway. And here it says the eye in the sky at midday, the pillars, the opening and closing of the day, the arc of the sun. So the pillars are the opening and closing of the day, which would be exactly it, right? That is the archway for the Milky Way. And the sun at high noon or 1 o'clock on the summer solstice. So, I think this is all really relevant. And this is all tying into Jesus' story. This is actually a church in Quebec, and you can see the sun rays up inside the dome again. So and they have the Trinity, the Eye of Providence up there as well. And yeah, and so this is like a circle. It's like you got the portal again. Now, the reason that I started to think about the summer solstice was because I was looking into the Midsummer Night Dream that Shakespeare wrote. And it has to do with Puck, right? I did a video on Puck, and I don't think I ever came across when I was researching him that he was a character in the Midsummer Night Dream. And I was fascinated that this is all about being kind of in a dream world and you're not really seeing reality, and they have the elementals and there's like magical beings. And so I think Shakespeare has definitely coded this to the summer solstice. Okay? And I will tell you why in another video why I do believe this is so relevant to religion. Okay, and that's a whole other topic. It's a big topic, so I'm going to save that. But let's look at the dates for the founding of the United States compared to where the planets are in the Silver Gate in 2030. There's quite a similarity going on there. And that is the year they're talking about the Great Reset. So I don't know if that's the return of Christ or whatever. It's just fascinating that these planets are aligning. And I've marked here where the rainbow is in the process of Washington with pink. And then you can see he's sitting in a portal. So he's sitting on top of the rainbow again. So a little refresher where Saturn and Osiris are on the founding date of the United States. They're on the Spica star where the Washington Monument is aligning to. You have to remember Osiris is the sun god, the dying sun that is reborn. Now here we have in Taurus Dionysus, who is the freedom. Really, he marries Ariadne, who is the keeper of the labyrinth in Taurus. And then when the bull is killed, she ends up going to his island and marrying him. Okay, so he's right there with Venus. Venus, Earth rules Taurus. Mars is right in the Silver Gate, right where Trump was born. Okay, right on that right-hand horn of Taurus. And then we had Jupiter and Venus and the Sun all in the pillars, the twins, the Gemini. And Mercury was right between Gemini and Cancer. Now, not only was Dionysus in Taurus, Bacchus is there too. And Bacchus is really representing freedom and wine, right? You drink the wine, the nectar, and you become free from time. And then Uranus is there, which is heaven. This was all happening in Taurus, okay? So we had Mars, Uranus, Dionysus, and Bacchus all in Taurus. Now, they also picked the moon being in Aquarius. That's really relevant, right? Because it's all about giving people the opportunity to get to the Aquarian age. But there's the bipolar part of Aquarius can be to do with technology and networking. So it can be, AI technology rather than our natural technology where we can become telepathic. Now, I know it's upside down, but we still have Venitas now, and this is in 2030 on the summer, well, just after the summer solstice. And we have Venus there, who rules Taurus. We have Venitas is back there, Uranus is back there, heaven, and Mars is in the exact same location. And the sun is in Gemini with Mercury conjunction. So on the hammer of Orion. This is all really relevant. Mercury ruling the mind and, big player and the messenger of the gods, right? Mercury. So that's it's pretty intense that everything is kind of back there again, because Uranus has a huge cycle of 84 years, so it doesn't happen very often. And just the fact that this is all happening on the summer solstice really, sparked my intuition. Bacchus was not in Taurus, it's in Citus, which is really Pisces. So that's all to do with your belief systems and your spirituality and your psyche. And he's riding the beast, and he's underneath the right fish, which I do believe is more to do with spirituality rather than institutional religion, which is the left fish. Now we know the moon is a big player, and in 2030 on the summer solstice, the moon is back in Aquarius at the same time. So it's really mirroring the founding of the United States. Then the moon, the next day, is right in the circlet of Pisces, which is, I believe, the crown of Christ. And, the moon is the manger of Jesus, right? Cancer, it's the manger. So, and it's all to do with your ancestral memory of your family line. It's to do with your home and your security. It's to do with your memory. It has a lot to do with your memory. So it's pretty relevant that it went from Aquarius right in there. Like it goes on a wave, right? It could go below the ecliptic, and it's just fascinating that it's right in that circlet. So again, right around the summer solstice, we have Venus and Saturn right beside the Pleiades in 2030. And there's Mars and Uranus there as well, right? So now Saturn and Venus are conjunct as well, right? In this toroidal of Earth, right? And that's how Venus is born, right? When she's with Saturn. So I'm just like, whoa, and they're right on the Pleiades, and that's the duat going from the Sirius star through the belt of Orion, through Aldebaran, the eye of Taurus, right to the Pleiades. That's where you get judged in Egyptian mythology. So Taurus is really super important. It's earth and love of earth. So I'm just fascinated that this is all aligning for 2030 because they are telling us that in 2030. So I do see 2025 is really relevant too. There's tons of stuff happening in the sky with the Pi Day, and it is very relevant with the eclipse in 2024 as well. And then we finally get Pluto into Capricorn, where he was in the founding United States. So that's important because he's the soul. So we have to kind of wait until these alignments happen for anything super big to happen. I think we're just kind of in the drama trauma right now. I'm trying to get everybody hooked to, stress. And it's just ignore it. Basically just ignore it and create your own reality. We don't need them to tell us how the future is going to unfold. We can make it unfold how we want. And there's a nice close-up of Saturn and Venus. She's love. That's how she was birthed, right beside the Pleiades, 2030. It's like, whoa. So we got some pretty exciting years ahead of us. But I wanted to map that all out for you guys because I really think it's cool with the Milky Way. I think it's super relevant, and you can meditate on that. Dan Winter says that the sunset and the sunrise are most important time for your ability to go onto a longitudinal wave and get to this higher level of bliss to be able to jump timelines. Okay, so now what I've marked out here is that the Milky Way is in the perfect dome on the sunrise of the summer solstice and the sunset of the winter solstice. Okay, that's the only time it's aligning like that. So I think that's important to think about, meditate on, and really understand, the power of the sun. So I'm signing out, and I'm going to get the moon class out next Friday, and that will be fun because the moon is super important. I've saved it to last because it has so much relevance to us and our ability to remember. And like I said before, it'll help you learn how to do your moon charts for your ability every month to hold on to your seed. So sign up. I appreciate all your support, guys. Take care. Bye.